All right, we're going to call the work session for July 5th. That was a question. It's July 5th. Yes. To order. Let's stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Thomas.
Okay, the first item is 164 College Avenue easement. We have a small stormwater line, well, small in the sense that it's not very lengthy. It's actually a big pipe. It's a 30-inch pipe that starts at 164 College Avenue and runs down across College Avenue, ultimately runs down to an open swale that ultimately runs down to Leroy Street. The head wall for the pipe is on 164 College Avenue, and we have no easement, we have no right to access the property. Public Works reached out to the homeowner, and he's willing to grant the borough an easement so that in the event that we need to get in there and maintain or make repairs to the head wall, we can. So that's the resolution that you have in front of you in the agenda packet. Excuse me, we will be changing the wording slightly because it's not a retention pond, it's a stormwater infrastructure. But the recommendation is just to accept the easement so that we have the ability to work on the pipe.
Mike, just out of curiosity, are we paying for that easement?
Dave, I don't believe we are.
Oh, nice.
Any other discussion? Okay, Jenna.
Item number 2 this evening is the staff salary banding or categories. This is only presented tonight for informational purposes. We do have a personnel committee meeting scheduled for tomorrow that hopefully I'll be able to have an in-depth conversation with the personnel committee about this. But this is something that possibly the August or September meeting that we would be asking council to adopt. Didn't want you to just see it for the first time next month though, so we're just presenting it here. There's some information in the agenda packet itself. So what we do is we try to, there's a number of different things, we try to create 5 categories of employees. And we didn't want it to get too caught up in the names or the titles of the categories or anything, but we've identified those 5 categories so that we can start to look at making sure that we have proper equity amongst the categories for people when it comes to salary with people in like positions. And then next what we've done is just some, based on our information, the research that we've done, and we have a lot more information that we'll be presenting to the personnel committee tomorrow, but on different averages in different places. Jim Adriano has done a lot of work identifying comparable positions and salary ranges for those comparable positions. So we have some, a starting point anyway for the conversation. There's actually 2. There was the one that Dave and I kind of sat down on the left-hand side that has the heading up top says range, low, range, mid, range, high. Dave and I kind of sat down and did that, and then Jim did some additional work. Dave and I, for lack of a better word, just sort of brainstormed on that. Jim actually did some work comparing it to other organizations and other municipalities and people in like positions. Tried to give you some sort of idea about how we came up with these categories or bands. And then at the end, the bottom what you have is the actual salaries right now, that as they exist right now, and you can see that some people aren't there's some disparity there as you look. But again, this is just for informational purposes tonight. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but this is not for an agenda item for next week.
Okay. Next, Mike.
Item number 3 tonight is more cost of living increases for police officers. I believe we just have 1? 2, sorry. Kind of a monthly thing anymore now that we have a number of retired officers. So.
Any discussion? Okay, Jenna.
Item number 4 and 5 are executive session items regarding personnel hires. 4 being administrative positions and 5 being new police hires. Item number 6 is request to adopt or wait, did we advertise? So we did not advertise. So the police chief requested the opportunity to meet with the Civil Service Commission, to talk with the Civil Service Commission about the minimum score requirements in the application process for both entry-level patrol positions as well as first-line supervisors positions or promotional positions. Right now, the minimum score in the written exam for both of those is 85%. The chief had discussed with the Civil Service Commission reducing that to 75%. Basically, the rationale is simply that not everybody does well on standardized testing, and also because it's only the written test is only one of many, 7 or 8 different tests or investigations that we do with each candidate to determine whether or not they're a good fit. The chief just felt very strongly that that 85 was too high and was eliminating the possibility of some good candidates. I'll be honest with you, at first I was opposed to the idea, but he was able to convince, and I think the reason that I was able to be swayed by it was the fact that it's just one of many tests, if you will, that we look at when we're hiring officers. And I mean, not everybody does well on standardized tests. Now, I don't know how much of an indication that is of a good police officer, for example. So I will tell you that when I first came here, 20 years ago now, the minimum score was 70%. We've increased it to 75 and 80 to 85 and back to 75, and it's moved around quite a bit over the years. But I think I'm comfortable with going back, recommending going back to 75. So the request would be just to authorize the advertisement. We would advertise it, you would adopt it next month at the August meeting, and then we would be able to move forward with a new test if we needed to at the September meeting.
Any discussion?
How many questions are
They're pretty significant, like they're 100 question tests or more.
I just wonder why you go to 80 instead, all the way to 70.
Well, I think the chief's reasoning was just looking at the scores we received. Because even if we reduced it, so we're looking at the last, like for example, the last 2 supervisor exams, which we had nobody pass. Even if we had reduced it to 80, in the first test, we still would have had nobody that would have passed. And in this last test, we only would have had 1. So I think that's why he was, there's no argument to be made about, maybe there's other ways to accomplish that instead of just reducing I get you.
We can always raise it back up if the quality. Listen, for me, the bottom line is if it's a recommendation from the chief, then I support him 100%. Not to say he hasn't steered us wrong yet. Is my point.
There's definitely lots of people that struggle taking tests that are otherwise very good candidates, very viable candidates. So.
Yeah. And like what got me to agree is when Mike said, and this isn't the only test that these guys take.
There's several other factors we can judge.
Yeah. Any other discussions? Okay, we'll make that an agenda item.
The next item is the opioid settlement resolution. So I don't know if anybody was aware, but there was a rather large class action lawsuit nationally. There is now a class action settlement offer being made nationally, and essentially the lawsuit charged the pharmaceutical companies with the expenses that municipal governments have experienced as a result, and state governments as well, I shouldn't say, state and municipal governments, as a result of the opioid crisis and all the problems related to it. So there's a giant settlement. Allegheny County, as it stands right now, stands to get 50-some million. The numbers are in the document if you get a chance to read it. And if more municipalities sign on, Allegheny County stands to get I believe it's 82 or 83 million. Just want to point out that allotment of money will take place between 2025 and 2039. It's not like they're going to get $80 million next year. The more municipalities that sign on, the more, so the way the settlement is set up is that the more municipalities that sign on, the more the counties, because they want to distribute it through the counties, can get. The idea is that, if more municipalities experience problems related to it, then the county should get more to be able to address the problem. So there's, if you read the information from the county, that there's language in there that indicates that signing on via the resolution to the settlement will increase Plum's chances of being able to have some of that 82 or 83 million, but there is no guarantee, obviously. But I see no downside of signing on to it, quite honestly. So it's just a simple resolution and authorizing us to sign on to the settlement.
Okay, Jenna.
The next item is the employee purchase of a department-issued firearm. So one of our police officers just recently retired, and it just briefly, prior to about 2-3 years ago, officers bought their own firearm, and a couple years ago, the chief came and said, you know, for a whole host of reasons, I think the borough ought to provide the firearm. It has to do with, you know, uniformity, you know, not buying 12 different kinds of ammunition, like all those different things. And council agreed, and you budget now every year for new firearms for all the police officers. These are personal sidearms. One of the officers that retired has offered to buy his personal, so his police department issued sidearm for the replacement cost of a new one for whomever would be replacing him. Since we've never done this, and that would be sort of a policy decision, I explained to them that we'd have to bring this to council, and council would have to decide this and adopt a policy. You have to make a decision whether or not you want to do it, and then we'll have to write some sort of policy that explains how, what, and when.
Discussion.
I don't have an issue with it as long as it, you know, the money that he pays for it, we don't have to add to it to replace it.
Let me throw this out to you guys, and this, trust me, I'm not digging my heels in the sand on this at all, it's just a suggestion. We're talking about maybe $400.
I believe it's $409.
$409. My feeling is just let him keep the gun. It's his sidearm.
He's had it for how many years, bro?
Is $400 going to make that big of a difference with us? I think it's a nice gesture. It's his gun. He's trained on it. You know, if we
Not enough gun owners are, you know, that gun means something to them.
yeah, I just don't think $400 is going to make that big of a difference. Again, if you guys say no, I'm cool with that. I'm fine with it. But my 2 cents is just let him take the gun. It's his sidearm.
I don't have an issue with it.
It's $400.
So how often do they get the guns?
Well, when a new officer comes on board, they will be issued one. But after a while, if there's a problem with a weapon, guns last a long time, but it is possible that over the course of somebody's career they might get a replacement, but typically just when they come on the force for the first time.
And
So it's not like someone's gonna realize, I'm gonna retire and get a new gun because I don't get to keep it for free.
No, because it would have to be issued to the department anyway. The chief would have to approve them being issued the gun.
And we standardize on 40 caliber.
Correct.
right.
So would this policy just be for people who retire?
Yes, only for retirees. And listen, if we feel as or the future council feels as it's getting taken advantage of, you can always change policy. But I think just as a general rule, it's his firearm. $400.
Well, okay, but I'm just making sure we
Yeah.
define the policy properly, otherwise.
Yeah.
Right.
You want all sorts of unexpected issues.
Agreed.
Do you want to qualify with like length of service? Does that matter at all?
Well, there's
It's upon retirement. It's not like they got another job in another municipality. It's only for retirement.
Well,
officer.
your point is well taken. We had Officer Brandt, who after 1 year decided to change careers.
He went back to Rolls Royce.
He went back to Rolls Royce.
But that wasn't a retirement, that was a
No, that
resignation.
was not a retirement, that's my point.
So he would turn his gun
He
in.
was only 1 year old.
Right.
So that's a different
But you
situation.
gotta define retirement then, right? 'Cause-
I would define retirement.
Correct.
So retirement under Pennsylvania Act 600 is 25 years of service with the same law enforcement department at a minimum age of 50.
So that.
That's the law.
Very good.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, that's pretty sums it up pretty good.
Okay, do that.
All right, so make that an agenda item.
So I can at least tell Mike that he can keep the weapon for now. Well, actually, he turned it in on Friday, because Friday was actually his last day of work.
Well, we
But-
can get it.
Yeah, okay. We'll try to have an actual policy written for Monday night that you can adopt so we can hit the ground running Tuesday morning.
Great.
Okay. Next item under Parks and Rec is Renton Park Phase 3 change orders. So we have 3 change orders for the park. The first one would be an addition of about $22,000. Part of Phase 3 is to mill, so Renton Park right now has an asphalt basketball court. Part of Phase 3 that we built into the contract was milling some of that asphalt, shallow milling, and then re-asphalting to have a better surface. Because it's very cracked and deflected and even falling in some places. After looking at it though, everybody kind of agrees, staff agrees as well as the engineers, that it's probably best if we just do a full depth milling so that we're spending a lot of money, we might as well just, let's do it right. So the change order for that's gonna be about $22,000, so that would be one motion to vote on that change order. Change order number 2 is actually a deduct. There were some aspects of the contract that it was just easier for our guys to do, because remember, we are doing a lot of the work up there in-house. The Public Works Department built a retaining wall system up there, they're doing the conduit for the and doing all the electrical work. So there was a deduct for some of the work that we did. We installed some of the ENS controls, we built the rock driveway for the tire cleaner and everything. So the contractor owes us a deduct for that. As of about 3:30 this afternoon, I wasn't aware that we had that number yet, but we're hoping to have that number for Friday so you can accept that deduct. But again, it'll be removing money from the contract. Okay. And then finally, change order number 3 is related to the restroom. The part of this project involved in constructing a restroom at the park. There's no restroom there now. And we were able to find, or the engineer was able to find a precast restroom that we could buy right off of CoStar's. And so in the contractor's contract, what they owed was the pad to sit this precast structure on, and then to be able to tie into the water and sewer system and electricity into the facility. Prices kept creeping up on this precast structure. We actually talked to, Dave did talk to the architect who designed this building, who said, and I believe the number was in 6 figures. I believe it was about $100,000 for the precast. And he said, I can design one for you for less than that. So he's designed a bathroom that could be built by the contractor on site as opposed to a precast structure. And we believe that it'll be less than the cost of the precast structure, but it'll have to be added into the contract for the contractor. We're still waiting back for his numbers on that as well. Hopefully we'll have that Monday night for you to approve. If we don't have the number, you can't approve the change order because we gotta know what the number is. But this is not in addition to the cost of the project, because we always had that money in there for the purchase of the bathroom. This is just now, instead of buying a precast one, they'll be building it.
Discussion? Okay, we'll make that agenda. Now, before you go any further, Mike, let me back up real quick. Getting back to the firearm issue, I think we need to make sure that we say that going forward. I don't want, because we've had a lot of cops retire recently, I don't want them all coming back saying, where's my gun? So it's taken, like, from this day forward, just to save administrative nightmares for you guys, so. Thank you.
The next item is the request to use Plum Creek Park for a charity event. There's a copy of the special event permit request in your agenda packets. This is for the kickball charity fundraiser. Same group that did this, same person, I guess, that did this last year is requesting to do it again this year. You guys just need to approve the request.
Discussion? Okay, Jen.
So the next item is an unbudgeted item. We have been working on the codification. I'm gonna try and do this in one sentence. Codification takes every single ordinance that the borough's ever adopted, combines them all into one usable, logical, organized format, so that anytime anybody wants to look up an issue regarding a dog, or paving, or permit, it's topical, not by year it was adopted.
Perfect, yeah.
then we then take that and then we get it electronically and then we can put it on our website. People will finally be able to search by keyword, whatever ordinances they want to look up. We've been working on this. You can imagine the hundreds of ordinances that the borough's adopted since the 1700s. There's a lot to do. This has been a multi-year project. With the move in the building this year, and everything going on, we didn't budget anything this year because we didn't think we were going to get to it. But Jess has been able to do a lot of work on it. So we are asking for council to authorize $17,000 that was not budgeted so that we can get that done this year.
Discussion. No, I think that's money well spent, and it'll be a heck of a asset to the community.
Yeah.
And free up a lot of your time too, with phone calls, so. Agenda item.
The next item under roads, equipment, and grounds is the disposition of out-of-service police equipment. So there's two different groups of equipment. The first one is I'll use the term old body camera and in-car camera system. I don't want to get too down into the weeds on this one because we are attempting to negotiate with that vendor about repayment, so I don't want to get too far down into the weeds on that publicly. But suffice it to say, we've moved on. We have a new system. Council authorized a few months ago to move on. We have a new system in place, but we still do have the in-car cameras and the body cameras. There may be some communities out there, or even some other organizations that are using that technology that they might find valuable. And given the fact that we're not having a whole lot of success with the vendor at this point, we might be able to mitigate some of our losses, our financial losses on the system by just putting them out on govdeals.com, which is where we sell all of our cars and everything. We can put them out on govdeals.com, and if we get $10,000 for all the equipment, it's $10,000 we didn't already have for it. So we're requesting authorization to dispose of that equipment and try and sell it on GovDeals. That's the first group, or I don't want to say piece of equipment because it's a lot of equipment. And then the second group of equipment is cell phones. We used to have a number of cell phones for each shift, for each zone, for each car. We do it because it's difficult because of the radio signals in Plum. It's really difficult to get a consistent radio signal in Plum. So the cell phone was always a better backup. Jason Mugley, our IT director, was able to get a much better deal through Verizon so that we can now assign a single. Now the cops won't be taking these phones home. They will be leaving them here, but each officer will have their own phone assigned to them because right now they kind of shared them. It also actually saved us about $1,200 a month by doing this. But the old phones that were not Verizon phones, we can't use anymore for anything. And we were trying to come up with a way to donate these phones. Braddock, Rankin, I'm not sure exactly who all is involved in it, but they started a regional police force. And we were going to suggest that council might want to donate those phones to them just in case they need cell phones for their new venture. So those were the two groups, if you will, of disposed equipment.
Discussion?
Have you reached out to them? Are they interested in?
We haven't. I wanted to talk to you guys first before we promised something to them. I mean, I'd be surprised if they didn't want them.
I think it's great.
I think it's a great idea too. Okay, agenda.
And finally, in your agenda packets, there's an email from a resident that is requesting a study at the intersection of Old Leechburg and New Texas Road. I don't think you'll find anybody that works here that will say that that's an ideal intersection. And I'm speaking specifically of traffic that is coming on New Texas towards the ball fields, trying to make the right onto Old Leechburg, or traffic coming down Old Leechburg trying to make the left onto New Texas. The intersection is a deflected radius, so it doesn't give enough radius for the turn, so people either have to cut short on the inside or they go very wide into the other lane and even on the people's front lawns. They've asked, the homeowner that lives there has reached out to PennDOT and said, hey, can you do something about this intersection? They said that request has to come from the municipality. You guys know we've done this many times. We've requested a study to be completed by PennDOT to determine what, if anything, is recommended to improve the intersection. The one caveat that I want to make sure everybody understands before you say yes to this is remember that when you request that study, you are agreeing to make any recommended changes regardless of cost.
Well, Mike, what's the recommendation from the neighborhood? What do they want to see?
Well, I mean, they just want to see something done. Like, I don't know that there's,
Wasn't there just one resident?
it was just one
It was
resident.
one resident, not a neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a horrible.
It absolutely is.
It is.
And the recommendation that could come back from PennDOT could be just no right turn off of off of New Texas or something like that. And so the cost would be, the actual cost would be the cost of signage. But the real problem would be enforcing that, people getting upset that they can't make that right anymore, because a lot of people make it. It could be as simple as that it could be as involved as taking the corner of somebody's property to realign that intersection. So I'm not suggesting, we're not advising that you say no to this request. I just want to make sure that you understand the repercussions of saying yes to it.
And we're 100% focused on everything even though that's state road?
Yes. And it's not discretional. It's not discretional. If the report comes back that you have to do this, there's no you have to do it.
But is there a time frame you have to do within? Or do you just have to start the process?
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think you're making a good faith, agreement
start
with the
fundraising
state,
for
yes.
it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a $250,000 improvement, I think PennDOT would understand that, hey, we need a year or two to budget for this. I think if it's a simple sign and some stop bars on the road or something like that, some painted traffic controls on the road or something like that, no, I think they're gonna expect that should be done within a few months.
Is there grants available to do that? We applied no grants?
There's grants available for everything, yes.
The question is, do we want to do this traffic study?
I want
They
to
do a couple ones, right? 36
So we're not gonna make
90
this-
days at most.
6 weeks?
I agree with you.
Yeah, so it'll be done this year.
Yeah.
Well, let's not make, I don't know, just my suggestion is, some have said, I'd like to go look at this intersection. So could we we can approve it for the agenda and table it next week. I don't know if we have to approve this month.
No, you don't. It's not a new problem. It's been existing for 30 years,
Right.
maybe more.
Line, School road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
We did a traffic study there, and then they said make
Yeah,
it
to
one
make it
way,
one way.
and make it one way. So
Yeah.
we gotta be careful.
Yeah. Let's
Oh,
chew on it for a while, let it marinate, and we can revisit it.
But you can put it on the agenda for now to consider for next week.
Sure. Okay, it's the agenda item then.
That is all that staff has for the agenda.
All right. Well, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great night. Mike, what's the path? I forget it. No. That is a street up. Oh, it's on the back.
It's on, yeah, I'll have to take it out of here. Yeah.
You could stop.